Hi, everyone, and welcome back to some new episodes of Sisters in Service. For those of you that know me, you know why I do this, because I want to tell those stories of active duty women and women veterans, and to tell their story, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened to them in service and after service. But these women are also doing some amazing things in their life after service. I also like to highlight these women who are business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're bosses in their business. So I hope you'll continue to listen and let your friends know and let me know how this lands with you, because it's really important for me that you guys understand what I do, why I do it, and why I continue to do it. So here's the first episode. This episode is being sponsored by Small Space Pilates. Are you ready to get fit and fabulous from the comfort of your own home? Look no further than Small Space Pilates. With live online Pilates and weight training classes, a video library, and a no perfection allowed policy, you can achieve your fitness goals without ever leaving your house. Visit smallspacepilates.com for your complimentary session and start your journey to feeling fabulous today. Welcome everyone to our latest episode of Sisters in Service. You know me as Kat Corchado, the host. And today we're going to talk about reinvention. And what I mean by that is, as veterans, we know that we transition, but what we don't often realize is that reinvention is part of that transition process. So my guest today is Janice Baker. She served 22 years as a Veterinary Corps Officer in the U.S. Army. And she's had multiple deployments. She's done everything you could possibly imagine. This woman's invented herself so many times. I'm jealous. I mean, she's done multiple things. But then on top of that, she went in front of the camera. You know, she started doing films and commercials and becoming a screenwriter, a producer, a director, and all the things. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So help me welcome Janice Baker. Hi, Janice.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we talked previously a little bit, which is where I learned all this stuff. I was like, wow, she's just multi-talented. She's done all this stuff. So Janice, this is what I ask people all the time is, did you pick the Army or did the Army pick you?
I think the Army picked me. I had wanted to join the service for a decade. I joined the Army when I was 35. And I had wanted to join since I was 18, and just a number of things tripped me up. I was in California to go to school, and I was interested in the Air Force National Guard, and got in a car wreck and broke my ribs. And they said, come back in a year. And then, chased a boy around for a while and got distracted and then just never, and then I got into veterinary school and that wasn't the right time to do it either. And then as soon as I got done with my internship, which is the year of specialty training after you graduate, it was actually during that when I started thinking seriously, wait, I think this is the time for me to go in the military. I really wanted to continue my specialty training, but it doesn't pay very well. And I was broke and I had student loans and all this stuff. And I had worked as doing disaster relief with the National Guard and started talking to the Army National Guard people, and then met several veterinarians that were in the military that were involved in that disaster relief, and started talking with them. And then just fortunately, one of them got a bunch of them together and got the Air Force, the Army, all of these people that they knew, and they went to lunch with me and they talked about what I wanted to do. And I kind of wanted, I was a veterinarian. I kind of wanted to do that during the week and then go fly helicopters or something during the weekend.
And she wanted to do all the things. You guys.
All the things. I want to do all the things. But I'd want to do something completely different. So I could enlist in the National Guard and be a helicopter crew chief or something like that. That just sounded, or medic. That was really interesting to me. And then it just got to a point right after they talked to me where I hit a financial wall. My student loan deferment ended. I owed, I made $1,100 a month. My student loans were $1,200 a month. The math just said you have to go active duty, and Army is the way to go. There are Air Force veterinarians and they work in public health, but I really wanted to do clinical medicine. So It was fortunately for some really caring, mentoring people that all kind of ganged up on me and said,
Right.
here's all your options, pick one. So I think they kind of reached out and grabbed me. That's the way they
They
recruited
said,
me.
"We want you,
We want
Janice."
you. Yeah, we want you. Exactly.
So the other thing I always talk about in the beginning is our transition from military to civilian life. And it's challenging. It just is. I haven't heard a happy story yet that wasn't challenging. So what was your biggest adjustment you had to make, and how did you navigate your transition?
So my biggest challenge, excuse me, was I think that because I had dedicated my life to my military career. I had to, just because of what I was doing. I only spent 18 months in the regular Army, and then I went to special operations, and I spent the remainder of my time, with the exception of when I finished out my career in the reserves, I spent it with special operations. And I had sort of carte blanche. I mean, I could literally walk down the hallway and tell my commander, hey, I need to go in Afghanistan. There's a plane leaving tonight. And, I could order a helicopter, an airplane. I could, to get the mission done. And nobody questioned me. I mean, they did within reason, obviously, but my commanders and my bosses just trusted me to do this. And there is nowhere else in the world that you have, unless you're like the CEO of a huge company, and that you can do that as a veterinarian. And so everything about me and my existence was, I'm going to see what is needed for the mission, and I'm going to make good decisions based on that. And I'm not going to let you down, and I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm not going to waste your money. I'm not going to go on a boondoggle, as we call it, TDY or deployment.
Right.
If I'm doing something, it's because I'm the expert in this, and it's the best thing to do. And that's just the kind of person I am. I mean, I'm very loyal. And then when I got out, I went to a government job, to one of the lettered alphabet soup agencies up in DC. And it was not like that. I was entry level. No one trusts you. I literally couldn't go to the bathroom, leave my desk and go to the restroom without telling my boss. And that was, I mean, I remember doing it and you're in training, and everybody's watching you.
I know, but don't you get mad? You're like,
I was
I'm sorry.
furious.
I'm gonna curse.
Yeah,
I'm a grown ass woman. Why do I need to
exactly.
have to ask permission to go to the bathroom? I'm
That's
just gonna say it.
actually what I said was, I can't believe I'm being told. She said, where were you? I was like, oh, I went to the restroom, and then I grabbed a cup of coffee on the way back. Well, I need to know where you're going. I'm number one, number two.
You're like,
you need
what?
to know that. Like, what? I said, well,
do you need details?
I said, I'm sorry if I misunderstood, but I said, I think I was 51, something like that. I was 47. Sorry. I'm a 47-year-old doctor. I usually get to go to the restroom without telling somebody where I'm going. And it was just so incredulous that that could happen. And that, to be honest, or to be fair, that was an extreme. That particular office I was in was a little bit.
That's a lot extreme. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
That's not a little extreme. That's a lot. Because I would have been like, I'm sorry, what?
What? And so, and I get it. I'm not above working in a shop or doing food service if that's what I needed to do. And I know that in some of those places of employment, you have to account for your every second of where you are. I'm going on a break. I get that. So I'm not above that, but it was so different to what I was used to. Mm-hmm. And even though we were really doing some pretty cool stuff, I had gone from primarily focusing on the medicine part of the global war on terror to the counter terrorism part of it. And we were doing just some amazing stuff, and I hated every minute of it. I mean, I love the work, and the people that were really good at it were absolutely amazing. And I have nothing but good things to say to them or about them. But like every day I would go to work wearing this cheap suit and uncomfortable shoes. And I'd walk like literally a mile from the parking lot in the rain or from the metro or whatever.
Oh man.
And then go sit at a cubicle and type all day and answer to people who didn't care. They did not care that I had just been in charge of all the medical evacuation of
Oh
injured
yeah.
working dogs.
They
Didn't
could care less.
care less. That's not
Yeah.
what I was hired for. And and some people, actually, there were some people that did. They recognized you were a military leader, you were in charge of people, you're an honest person, you have this incredibly high security clearance. We're going to trust you, but you don't know anything about this job, so we're going to give you a little bit of trust, but we still have to tell you what to do every day because you're new, you don't know what you're doing. And that was, then that's fair. That's just how it goes.
So was that the beginning of the end? Is that when you
Okay.
said, I can't do this anymore?
Well, and it would have been interesting if I'd stuck with it, because I made some really good friends that stuck with it, and they're thriving in that environment, and they had similar experiences to me. But I had the opportunity. I was several years in, or almost 5 years in, and I had the opportunity to mobilize. One of the special operations units wanted their own veterinarian, and they didn't have one on active duty. And you have to go through this big selection process. So it was a lot easier for them to mobilize a reservist who had already been through selection than it was to put somebody through a 6-month pipeline and hope they pass, and so they just I had 6 weeks notice. One of them we would keep in touch, and he would say, do you know any veterinarians? No, I don't know. And finally one day I said, what about me? I guess I can remember sitting at my desk just feeling like I
can't do this one more day.
Exactly. I cannot do this one more day. And I said, what about me? And he said, well, that's kind of who we wanted all along. We just thought you weren't available. And I said, well, there's this huge probationary and training program where I was, and I'd been through that, and I was out in the field, so to speak. And even though I was sitting at a cubicle, and I could do that. Now I could do that without interrupting any kind of probation or training. I could take leave without pay. So I said, yeah, I'll do it. And 6 months later, I had orders and got the heck out of there and went to this unit for 2 years, and on a what's called a coitus tour. And then I was able to transition out of the military from there in a much healthier and better way. Yeah. For one, this job, they didn't care. They just wanted me to take care of dogs and do research on working dog environmental issues like heat injury and things. And I wore civilian clothes every day. I came in on my own schedule. The first year and a half, I was pretty locked into a schedule. But then my replacement, they got an active duty veterinarian, and I took a different office, and I just sat in there and did research and visited vet clinics. And, I did all sorts of research and development.
It's what we used to call a cush job.
It was so cush. And I was able to slowly transition, slowly step back. I had no military responsibilities. I had no leadership responsibilities. That's when I really started looking at, what am I going to do? I still had the job. I was on leave without pay from the government job.
You didn't want to go back.
I didn't want to go back, but I just didn't think about it. But I did things like, I think I'm going to learn to paint, and I don't know who I am. I have no hobbies. I have no interests. I didn't make any, I want to say I didn't have any friends. That doesn't make sense. I had lots of friends from the Army, but I didn't make relationships in that 2 years at this other special operations unit, because I didn't know where I didn't want to commit to anything. And I was sort of like, I want to find out who I am first. And I went up to, when that job ended, I went back up to Washington in my cheap suit. I walked a mile from, so if you're not assigned to a certain office, you have to park in this parking lot that's literally a mile from the door. And it was pouring rain.
That's crazy.
Soaking wet. And I walked in, and I didn't have a job anymore because my job had expired, and I had to go interview for positions. I mean, I had a job, but I didn't have a position.
Right.
And I went into HR, and I sat down, and she said, well, let me see what we have available. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to resign. And she didn't blink. She turned around in her chair to her computer and said, well, you've probably lost your computer access. So let me just sign you on as a guest and you can go through the process here. And
Wow.
they put probably $1 million worth of training into each person over your career, or if not more.
That's crazy.
And they could care less if I was gone.
Yeah.
And so that told me you're doing the right thing. But so I came home to my house in North Carolina, and I didn't have any furniture yet. I sat here by myself, not knowing what to do. A friend invited me to dinner, and I was sitting at her house in town, an old Army friend. And she got a phone call from the FBI, and they said, we're going on a high risk mission and we're looking for a veterinarian to bring with us. Somebody maybe from the Army that knows tactical medicine. And she asked, do you know Janice Baker? And they, yeah, we know Janice. And she handed the phone to me. And that was the start of my canine consulting business, which I've been doing ever since.
That's crazy.
It was just,
when you talk about, okay, when I hear the word special ops, it brings all this stuff that I've seen on TV. My father-in-law was an Army Ranger. His brother, who was his twin brother, was either a Red Beret or Green Beret or something like that. Right. So they were both so when you think, tell us, did you have to go through the special ops training, or were you just kind of on the outside looking in type of thing?
Yeah, it's somewhere in between that. So obviously, if they have veterinarians in most of the special operations units, the Rangers have a veterinarian. All of the Tier 1, the Navy SEALs and all that, they all have veterinarians. But they're not, with the exception of the Rangers. If you go to the Rangers as a veterinarian, you have to become a Ranger. You have to go through their actual Ranger training.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks. No, thank you. I used to like to do stuff like that. I don't like that anymore.
I'll just take the 0, please.
Yeah, exactly. I am not climbing that thing. So, but with, if you're the veterinarian for the Green Berets, so to speak, the special forces, which I never was. I was with different units. Mm-hmm. Your support. So they wear the Green Beret, you wear the Maroon Airborne Beret. You have to do a lot of the things that they do, but you're not a Green Beret, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And there's a selection that you go through depending on the unit. The Ranger's probably the hardest, or definitely the hardest. But I went through a medical support officer selection process it has a name, but I don't know if I can say the name. So we had to do it was about a month. We had to do a lot of tromping around the woods, a lot of flying in things, jumping out of things, fast roping, stuff like that. And it was basically, and a lot of it was all geared towards medical. And, it's me. I was I think I was 41. There were a lot of doctors that were like 45. All they want to know is that you can do it and you won't quit. And you don't have to be like an operator, a door kicker. You just have to be pretty physically fit and not quit, and a good attitude, mm-hmm. and physically capable of doing it. So I was definitely in the best shape of my life, but now I limp and broken.
I would be okay with that. If you could just, you got to be in good shape, but you don't have to, do all the things that you see on TV and in movies and stuff. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the one thing that I think we don't think about as active duty military getting out of the service. We talk about transition, but did you know that you also had to reinvent yourself? Because I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah. So the first time I didn't think about it at all. What I did notice is that sort of like in the last 6 months of my active duty time, the first time I got out, I stopped sort of hanging out with special operations people, and I started hanging out more with the veterinarians. And I think part of it was I was just getting older. When I was 37 or whatever, it was fun to hang out with these, handsome guys and big, strong people and go drinking and do all that stuff. It was fun to do sort of live that wild party life. And I grew up rapidly and realized that that's not really, I'm, approaching middle age. I don't want to do that. I want to literally sit and talk to people about what movies they saw or what their kids are doing, and stuff like that. So I started gravitating more towards the veterinarians on base, which I'd never really got to interact with them a lot because everything we did, we couldn't talk about, right? And so I started interacting with them more, and I just that gave me this little taste that I don't have to be this cool girl, so to speak. I can just be a normal person.
But you were a cool girl. Look at all the stuff you did, and now you're getting into, so let me ask you this question. You had been doing all of this stuff. You get out of the military, and how did you get into acting? Was that something you thought, wow, that sounds kind of cool? And I bring that up because a lot of times as we get older, not so much when we're younger, but as we get older, we see the door closing to a lot of things. Okay. But the door's closed, but it's not locked.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to keep the door open a little bit because, I could peek around the corner and go, ooh, that looks cool. Let me try to do that. So when did acting become one of those, oh, wow, let's try this type of thing?
Yeah. So I had acted as a kid, in community theater, and I was in a couple local commercials and things just for fun. And I even did it in college a bit. But then I gave it up when I went into veterinary medicine. And then, like I said, the second time around when I'd been mobilized for those 2 years, I started kind of looking for hobbies. Like, you really need to find a hobby or something fun. And so I really do like artistic things. I've always liked that. Just sketching on my own and things, creative writing and things. So I started painting, and I'm not any good at all at that, but I love to do it. It's my my vacation thing, but I'm not really talented. And
that's
but
okay. Neither am I. I'm still in the stick people phase.
Oh, right. That's pretty much me. I like to go to those things where you drink wine and everybody paints the same.
Right.
Those
yes.
are a lot of fun.
Only I would go there and they'd say, well, Kat, there's nothing on your canvas. I go, I know, but the wine is
great. Exactly. There's a place in town where I live that does that, and I'll go and I won't know anybody, and we'll just have a blast just because it's fun. I don't even drink wine, but it's just fun to go and
absolutely
have fun with that. So I do a lot of public speaking, and like a lot of people that do public speaking, I have the habits, the ums and the pacing and all the stuff. So I had gone to Raleigh, which is a town near me, and to talk to a coach on public speaking, and it was in an acting studio, and it was right before he was teaching some acting classes. And I went in, and it's in a little black box theater, and the lights and the stage, and I was talking to him, and he said, well, we're going to start. If you want to just join us tonight, you're welcome to join us. And the class was on audition techniques. So all we had to do was get up on stage and say, hi, I'm Janice Baker. I'm 5'3" from Bass, North Carolina. Or if it's theater, you're just like, I'm going to be playing the role of whatever, reading the role. And so I got up and did my little, it's called a slate, with the lights shining on me. And then everybody applauded. And I went and sat back down and just felt this energy bursting out of me. By the end of the night, I'd signed up for a year of training.
You were hooked.
I was hooked. I was just like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for.
The acting bug got you.
Oh my gosh. And there's, and I absolutely loved it. I was going 16 to 20 hours a week for a year, and driving an hour each time.
Wow, you really did love it.
I was in a couple plays through that. And part of that was we got to audition for agents for a film television agent as part of this program. And I got picked up by them. I got signed. And there's several other people in my class that are all young and beautiful and very Hollywood types. And I'm this, middle-aged woman. And they're like, yeah, we want you. Me?
And they're going, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So the next thing I knew, I was going to auditions for films. Back then, a lot of stuff was in person. I was going down to Screen Gems, which is in Wilmington, to audition for film, like big films. I didn't get anything. I got a couple small parts in some commercials, where like I'm admiring avocados or whatever. And
hey, it pays.
It pays very well. And then just started got to know the local film community around here. And there's tons of just independent films, short films, people making
Mhm.
things that they, I'd start getting calls. And whenever they needed a mom, a grandmother, or a crazy cat lady, because apparently that's what I'm really good at, being these quirky characters. So I'd get a call, it was like, hey, my friend's making a film. They're looking for somebody that can do sort of a crazy cat lady thing. I'm like, I can do it. Uh, so I got a couple little short films under my belt and a couple commercials. And then I started, because of that, you get a demo reel. And then based on my demo reel, I was cast in a TV show in Atlanta. And
And the ball, it just keeps rolling.
oh,
The ball keeps rolling. Let me
right.
ask you this question: so you start off as doing you go to, I won't say it was acting school, but you took some classes
Yeah.
for a year. Then you get picked up as an actor. Is being a screenwriter, a producer, and director just a natural progression to
It
being an actor?
it is for a lot of people, but there's a lot of actors don't want to do any of that because that stuff's so. I mean, acting is a lot of work. You have to constantly train. Nobody is just good at acting. It's just like learning to use a weapon system or drive a certain vehicle or whatever. You have to have training in it to get the technical part of it right. And so a lot of people don't want to do the extra technical work of all of that. But what I found is, I used to lead these huge medical training exercises where there would be, 20 people that are injured and they're all role playing some kind of injury, and there's helicopters and explosions and all sorts of stuff going on. And and so when I started working in film and TV, I realized that that's just like being on a film set. There's the first assistant director is the first sergeant. They're the ones that are actually calling out action and calling the time and keeping everybody in line. The director is sort of the officer back there, being the strategic person on the monitor, watching everything, just like in the military, and guiding things from sort of far back. There's, the privates, the sergeants, everything. Excuse me. Everything was so much like a film set that things like, I've got 40 people. Where are they going to eat? Where are they going to use the restroom? Where are we going to put them if it's cold or there's bad weather? Does everybody have the right outfit? We need a bus. We need a bus to take 20 people over here. We've got to get them over here by this time. That was just military operations. And so I really, really realized that I have 22 years of training in running a film set.
So it's
And
all the
I'm
details.
very much so the details.
Yeah.
Right. Last night I was in a Zoom meeting with the production team for a film we're about to film that I'm directing. And the biggest conversation we had was, we have to literally put a bunch of extras on a bus because the city wouldn't let us rent a bus. So we have to put them on a real bus and get that shot. And then they have to all get off the next stop, and we have to send a couple of production.
Send the bus back. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, to pick them up and bring them back, because every half an hour we have a 5-second chance to get that same shot. So the whole thing was talking about how here's one bus stop and the next bus stop. And I did it on an overlay that looked like a military operation. It was just, if you can imagine the overhead imaging and imagery and all that.
It's interesting, the parallels,
exactly,
because I think it's like when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's very much like the military. Let me ask you about reinvention. So if someone came to you, they're getting ready to get out, and they gave you, they asked you the question about transition, and you found your way after. I mean, we all find our way eventually, but what would you say to them about transition and reinvention?
I would say that whatever it is you want to do is okay. We come into life, into adulthood, and then the military with a lot of people telling us how we have to do it. I mean, even in the military, you have the people who mentor you in your progress. And now you're going to go out in the world where you get to be that person. Whatever it is you want to do, go ahead and do it. And I mean, don't be stupid, but don't do bad things. But especially like with acting, I teach a workshop for new actors and just how to get into the business. And the first thing I tell them is, I know that most of you are probably here against the without the blessing of the people who should be supporting you or in your life that normally
Exactly.
support you. You
Yes.
are doing this thing and that they think is silly or frivolous,
Hmm.
and it's not.
And
It's
it's not a real job.
job. It's not exactly. It's not a real job. Exactly. And so you for transitioning and reinvention, what is it that you want to do? And you never fail. I really don't like it when I hear people say, I'm going to give this acting thing 5 years, and if it doesn't work out, I'm going to give up. What was your goal for working out? That you're famous in Hollywood? Because that happens to 1% or less of the people that ever do this. What or the people that are afraid of, I mean, myself included, we're for example, I decided during COVID that I was going to open a mobile veterinary practice, and because nobody could get in to see their vets, and my training and consulting, the stuff, like I said, I did with the FBI, had ground to a halt because nobody was doing any training.
Mhm.
And so I opened this clinic, and then we decided we're going to build a clinic, or we're going to have a regular clinic. And that has never been what I wanted to do. But it was a salvage. I can do this to survive financially during this pandemic because we don't know how long it's going to last.
It's a quick pivot move.
It
That's what
was
we're so good at. I think veterans are so good. Okay, this isn't
survival.
working. Boom. Let me go over here.
Wait,
let me, that's reinvention again.
We call it
You know
a
what I
just
mean?
fire. Yeah, absolutely. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Right. And when it doesn't work out, or in my case, when the pandemic eased and people could get back into their veterinarian and we didn't need to really have a mobile clinic. And I really didn't want to do it. It was something I was good at, and we did it. And I had a couple of employees, and the employees wanted to move on to other things, and they did. And I went through, again, a little existential crisis of, did I fail at this? No, I just decided I didn't want to do it anymore. That's not a failure. So that's
what I like
would
to
say.
call it? I like to call it failing forward.
Oh, I
Because
like
here's
that.
the
Yeah.
thing. One of the things that my husband and I, he talked me into going into real estate school. And so I go through the school and get my real estate license, go through all the motions, all the things you're supposed to do. And then I realize I don't like this at all.
Right.
Now, was it a failure? No, it wasn't. I
No.
had some success, I did. But I didn't like the process. Was it a failure? Absolutely not. You know what it did? It put this on the burner of, I don't want to do this anymore, and put me on the path of things that I do want to do.
That's
So
excellent.
I don't have in the back of my mind, maybe I could have been a realtor. Now I know I don't like it. I tried it, but it's failing forward because it keeps the door open to what you actually want to do, and it doesn't close the door. So failing forward, that's
Oh,
my
I love
phrase.
that. That's a perfect term, because it's not a failure. And it's okay if you decide you don't want to do this anymore, to change your mind and reinvent yourself. But I mean, I'm a pretty confident person, and I've always been that, like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this now. And then I'm out of there.
And then you go, I know.
But
oh, this is cool. Squirrel.
yeah, squirrel. Very much squirrel. I have the attention span of a gnat. So, but I went through a little bit of almost like shame. Like, I hear people say, or use very derogatory term, he's a failed actor, or she's a failed actor. And there's no such thing. Did you act at all? We tell people, if you're just auditioning, if you're acting in front of your own camera at home trying to make a demo reel, that's still acting. What defines success? That you make a living? Less than 5% of actors make a living acting. And do I make some pretty good side hustle money? Yeah, every once in a while I do. But what's successful? So that's what I would say about transitioning and reinventing yourself is, whatever you want to do, it's okay to try. And if you decide that it's not working for you for whatever reason, you really need to go get that job, that more secure job to feed your family, or take care of your own expenses, or you don't really like this, then that's not a failure. That's just okay, I'm going to do something different then.
But I think it's important too to say, the what if factor. Like if money wasn't an issue, if nothing else was an issue, and you said, what if you went into whatever, maybe it is acting. Let's call it acting. And you just went on auditions. And it wasn't like, you just said, I just want to see what this is like. Maybe you get into acting because you like it. Then it leads to something else, which leads to something else, which leads to something else. So I think we need to, ask the what if question, because I think as veterans, we've done one of the hardest things ever, which is wear the uniform. But yet when it comes to pushing the button for our podcast or reinventing ourselves and doing something different, we're like, oh, well, what are my people going to think? What are my friends going to think? What if I fail? What if we are our own worst enemies sometimes. And just do, here's my advice. Just do the damn thing. Just do it. Just do it. What's the worst that can happen? You've done the hardest thing ever. Just go do it. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
Oh no, that's a perfect soapbox. Do the thing. And the other, a big thing that I've learned as well is that if you're worried about what other people are thinking about you, there's a really good chance they're not really thinking about you. In class, I found this, I thought this was pretty funny because most of us go through this. You're in a acting class, you're acting one, your basic acting class, and you have this monologue you have to perform. And one at a time you get up and you start to get butterflies and you're really nervous. And then you get up and do it and you skip a line or you mess up a word or whatever. And you're just kicking yourself and you sit back down and then your colleague, your classmate gets up and does it. In the end, no one else in the class was actually listening to you because they were all fretting over what they were about to do.
Right.
So I'll say oh man, I missed this complete line. And not even the instructor noticed it because he's heard 20 of these and he doesn't care anymore.
Absolutely.
He wants
and you get better. No one's good the first time they do anything. Think about the first time you drove. That was a hot mess, right?
Right.
But then the more you did it, the better you became at it.
Yeah.
Janice, let me ask you this question. What projects are you working on now as a screenwriter, producer, director? Are you working on right now?
Great question. So there's the actor strike is still going on, hopefully resolving soon. So work has stopped a lot, not completely. Commercials are exempt from this. So I have been doing some commercials, but right now it's when acting work is slow, focus on creating, and I'm getting ready to with my team getting ready to film a short film in about 3 weeks. And it's something that I wrote and co-wrote, and I'm going to be directing. It's a really cute film about two kids that are a young girl and her older brother that are sort of running a little street con, but for a good reason. You learn in the end it's a good reason, and it's great. It's the first time I've always directed in a studio in a controlled setting. Or on a location where we own the building for the day or whatever. We're actually filming in downtown Raleigh. I had to get go through the permit process for all of that. There's buses, there's people, there's a ton of extras. There's 2 kids that are acting, or the young man is 18. He just turned 18. But the other lead is 12 years old. We cast out in the community, people we didn't know, which is the first time we haven't just cast people we know. And so all of those things, and I've got such a great team. My first AD and co-producer, Joya Joseph, and Rob Underhill's the DP, who's a pretty well-known cinematographer in North Carolina. And we're really, really looking forward to this project. Getting ready. It's in, I think, 3 weeks.
Well, keep us posted.
Yeah.
One last question. From your diverse journey, what is one thing that you've learned about yourself?
So,
because you've done so many things. You're just like, "Ooh, that looks cool. Let's go do this." And I love that about you because I'm like that too.
Oh yeah. I think I've learned that I can be and am a vulnerable person who can have emotions and show them. When I was in special operations, there's no crying, there's no crying. We would have horrible things happen because it's war, and you cannot let your
Show
emotions.
emotion.
Yeah, you have to fix the situation or
Mm-hmm.
or damage recovery, whatever the case was. And
Mm-hmm.
because because I was in a medical unit, that's what we focused on, was casualties. And so um, so the no emotions. And of course, I was almost always the only female in the room, whatever we were doing, or the only female on the mission. That's just typical. And so I'm not going to cry in front of anybody. I'm not going to. And I was never much of a crier, if that makes sense. I didn't cry to feel sorry for myself. I didn't show that kind of emotion. But when I got out, especially with acting and writing and starting to listen to stories, and I don't have kids, but I'm writing a story about kids, or I'm filming a film about kids. I have to think of what their parents would feel, or what these people would feel. And so that is really, I've learned that things do make me sad or cry, and that if I cry in front of somebody, or if I show, not just cry, there's way more emotions than cry. If
Mm-hmm.
I tell somebody how bad I feel, or I'm sorry, or I don't know what to do to help you, but I really feel for you. If I've learned about being honest with how I feel right now. And I think I've mentioned this before. I had to kind of develop a checklist. Like, I've never really let myself, 22 years in the military, I've never let myself just feel what I was feeling at the time. So if I'm feeling off, I'd have to say, am I hungry? Nah. Am I sleepy? Maybe. Tired? Am I embarrassed? Yeah. Or am I ashamed? Am
Mm-hmm.
I angry? What is it that I'm feeling? Because when I first sort of started being a civilian and transitioning out of the military, if I felt off, everything was off. If I felt sad about one thing, everything was sad. If I felt embarrassed about something stupid I'd done, everything was embarrassing. And I had to learn how to pinpoint, I think I'm feeling bad because, the joke I use is like, you say hi to the guy in the hallway that you kind of like, and he doesn't say hi back. And then you just go crumple into a
And
ball.
then you make up this whole story about why he didn't say hi
Yeah, yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
it could be
Versus
something as simple as that, he just didn't hear you,
he didn't hear you, or he's thinking about something else, or right. And then I was like, oh, I think I'm in crush. Like, I think I have a crush, or just, why do I feel so defensive today?
Mhm.
Why did I snap at those people? I don't have a beef with them. And then I realized, like, oh, it's because I went to this meeting and I was the only one who wasn't prepared, and I'm feeling stupid. And it's been
Mhm.
a decade or more now, and what I've learned is I'm so much more in touch with
Mhm.
how I feel. And okay, so I go to the film and there's a sappy part of it, and I cry in front of all my friends,
It's okay.
and they just kind of rib me a little bit, and then I survive and I go on, and nobody thinks worse of me
Mhm.
because of that. So
I think as we get older, because I was a total opposite of you. As a child, you looked at me funny, and I would all day long I'd be like, what did I do? I would ruminate on it. And now as I've gotten older, I found that not everybody's your flavor. Okay. Which
so
which is
true.
fine. It's okay. I've also learned that I used to think veterans were special. They were awesome. And they are. But then I remember that veterans are people, and sometimes people suck. Okay.
Yes.
And so I have to keep that in mind. And so I'm just going to tell you this real quick. Someone had reached out to me to be on my podcast, and I was like, great, and I always have a call with them, or a one-on-one through Zoom, and we talk and chat. And I'm like, okay, this is great. I want to make sure that the other person on the other end could speak. And so I said, well, let's sign up for a connection call. And then they came back and said, oh, we decided that it's not the quite great fit and everything. And years ago, I would have been just hurt beyond
Crushed.
belief,
Yeah.
crushed. And today I was like, he's not my people.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I am
Right.
okay with that. And so, Janice, tell everybody if someone has questions about acting, producing, or anything in the North Carolina, South Carolina area, or just in general, where can they reach you?
So I'm on Instagram on it's at Janice the Actor, and it's Janice, the actor, and I just sort of do this silly behind the things, or the behind the scenes things, if I'm on set, which has been a while since I've been on, so I've just been posting photos, but um, I'll talk about what's going on set and sort of walk around and show things. And my main goal is to not take it too seriously, because a lot of actors, or people think that actors are, are these diva Hollywood types or whatever. And most 99% of acting is not that. It's just trying not to fall down or run into a camera or something like that. And
Oh,
so,
excuse me.
yeah, right. So, one of the clips, they're all about 30 minutes, or I'm sorry, 30 seconds long, of just me. I'll see something pop up on set, and I'll try to sneak a video of it, which most of the time you're not allowed to do. So I'm pretty respectful of what we're not allowed to do or what we are allowed to do. But so a lot of these clips are me sitting in a vehicle on set, waiting to go inside or whatever, if we're on location, just talking about what we're doing or what's going on. Things like, I drove all the way to Atlanta. I booked the TV show that I talked about, drove all the way to Atlanta, sat in talent holding for 8 hours. We were filming. It wasn't the last episode of the series, but it was the last day of filming for the season. And at midnight, we timed out and they cut my scene. And so it's union. You can't, there's 40 people on set. It would be $100,000 to keep us for another 4 hours to film it. They're not going to do that. They just cut the scene.
And that's just part of it. That's
we're
just part of the process,
crushed.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in this truck, this rental car that I had, talking about how disappointed I was, but how, that's how it goes. And the best thing to do is, one of the actors on set threw a little fit. I'll bet they're never going to call him back again. But I was like, hey man, I understand. Thanks so much. Maybe we'll see you next season.
Yeah.
And, maybe they'll bring the character back.
I think you have to have a sense of humor. And what I mean by that is we can't take ourselves too seriously.
No.
And I think as veterans, we're so like the mission, which, yes, that is serious. But then when you step back as a veteran, that's a chance for you to develop who you are as a person.
Absolutely. And me coming back to the studio where I teach and being able to tell these new actors, like, hey, this happened. This is what happens. Well, it turned into an opportunity. We use it in our new actors workshop, that you have to just roll with it. And your attitude on set right then when they cut you is going to make the difference whether you get called back or not. 2 months later, I get the call from the director, we want you back. And I filmed 2 more days on the show. And so that, yeah, absolutely. That's, but so yeah, at Janice the Actor, and I'm really interactive. People have questions. I was just talking with somebody last night who's interested in it. We were chatting online. Yeah, that's where they can find me.
Well, Janice, thank you for being a part of the podcast today and learning more about you and being the actor and reinventing yourself. I kind of think about reinvention as, building an extra section onto your house, like, oh, let me build a section here. Let me build a section here. It's not reinventing yourself all over. This is an extension of who you are as a person.
It's still your house.
And exactly. It's still you. It's just a different part of you. And I think it's important for us to understand as veterans that transition and reinvention go hand in hand. You just have to know or have an idea of what you like to do. It's the what if factor. What if I took acting lessons? What if I took painting lessons? What if I went into the fitness field? That's what I did.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Janice, for being here. For everyone else listening, thank you for being here today and listening. And as always, please stay safe. Take care of each other until next time. And it's never too late to start your impossible.